everyone, I'm Lisa Cheplack, nutrition chef with Green Our Planet. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making a dish that has a very nutritious main ingredient. Do you have any idea what that might be? Let me give you some hints. It's known as a superfood because it's packed with nutrients. It's originally from the Andes Mountains in Peru and Bolivia. The ancient Incas used to call it the mother food. NASA is experimenting with growing it so that it can be used for future long-distance space travel and for colonies on Mars. And it's a seed. Do you have any guesses? If you said quinoa, you are correct. Quinoa is actually the Inca name for these plants, which have been cultivated in the Andes Mountains for at least 7,000 years. People collect the seeds from the plants, which can then be cooked or ground up and made into flour. One of the most important characteristics of quinoa is that it is one of the few plants that has complete proteins. Do you know what a complete protein is? A protein is a nutrient our bodies need to grow and repair cells so that they work properly. Proteins are made up of amino acids, and there are 22 amino acids in each protein. However, our bodies can only produce 13 of those 22 amino acids. The other 9 we have to get from eating animal or plant proteins. Animal and dairy proteins are called complete proteins because they have all of the 22 amino acids that we need. Many plants have protein too, but most of them have incomplete proteins, meaning they don't have all of the amino acids that we need. But do you know which plant is one of those few exceptions? Quinoa. Quinoa is rich in fibers, vitamins, and nutrients, and also has complete proteins. So today we're going to be making a quinoa bowl, which is another way of saying that we are going to create a bowl of delicious superfood. Do you want to find out how to make it? Let's begin. The first step in creating your quinoa bowl is to cook the quinoa. You can either use yellow quinoa or tricolor quinoa, which is a mix of black, red, and yellow quinoa. So that's what we're going to use today. Before you place your quinoa in your pan to cook, you're going to want to rinse it. Rinsing helps remove a natural coating that causes quinoa to be bitter. Then we're going to take our rinsed quinoa and add it to a medium-sized saucepan, along with 2 cups of water. And we're going to turn it on high heat and bring it to a boil. Once it boils, we'll turn it to simmer, and we'll simmer it for about 15 minutes. While this simmers and cooks, we'll put a lid on it and we'll check back. Now that our quinoa is done cooking, we're going to remove it from the heat, and we're going to fluff it with a fork and just set it aside and let it cool a little bit before we use it in our bowl. And we'll go prep the rest of our ingredients. Our next ingredient is kale. We're going to use lacinato kale, also known as dinosaur kale, and a green curly kale. You can use any kind of kale that you would like. The first thing we're going to do is remove the stem of our kale. You can use the stem and save that to add to your smoothies later. So we're going to remove both of the stems from these, and then we're going to chop it up into small pieces for our bowl. Kale is part of the cruciferous family of vegetables, just like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, collard greens, and Brussels sprouts. Kale is known as a superfood. It doesn't have complete proteins like quinoa does, but it is one of the most nutrient-dense foods there is. Nutrient-dense means a food that is high in vitamin and mineral content in relation to its weight. Kale contains nutrients such as vitamin A for eyesight, vitamin K, which is good for your blood, vitamin C, which is for growth and development and repair of all body tissues, and really good for your immune system. It is also full of antioxidants, which help protect your cells from bad chemicals. So I'm going to cut the kale in very thin strips. So now we have our large bowl of finely chopped kale. To continue on with our cruciferous vegetables, our next ingredient is broccoli. This is actually the third superfood we'll be adding today because broccoli is full of fiber, nutrients, and lots of antioxidants as well. Broccoli contains vitamin C, vitamin K, and lots of fiber. I cut up my broccoli into small florets just like this and measured out about 1 cup to use for our bowl. Our next ingredient is green onion. If you didn't know, green onion is also known as scallion. Green onions contain fiber and vitamin K. I am going to thinly slice 2 green onions to use for our bowl. And our green onions are ready for our bowl. Now we have 2 fruits to add to our bowl, which add color and nutrients, and they're 2 of my favorite things to use in this bowl: pomegranates and apples. First, we'll talk about our red apples. Apples are highly nutritious, which is why we say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. The skin of the red apples contains nutrients such as polyphenols, which are a form of antioxidants that protect our cells. They are also loaded with vitamin C, which is good for a healthy immune system. My other fruit is pomegranates. Pomegranates are also very nutritious and contain vitamins A, C, E, and folic acid. Folic acid helps the body make new red blood cells. Have you tried pomegranates before? So we're going to cut our apple first. I'm going to go ahead and take out the core first. You can use any kind of apple you want. You can use a red delicious, gala apples. There's so many great varieties of apples, so just choose one that you like. If you cut your apples ahead of time, you can put some lemon juice on them so they won't turn brown. So after we take the core out of the apple, we're just going to cut it in half, and then cut it again, and then just cut it into some bite-sized pieces that are going to be perfect for our bowl. For this bowl, you'll want to use about 1 apple. Next, we're going to cut our pomegranate open. So I cleaned all the arrows out of the pomegranates, and we'll just set these aside and get them ready to use in our bowl. Now that we have our fresh ingredients prepped and ready to go, and our quinoa is just about done cooking, we're going to be making a dressing that we're going to use on our bowl. We're going to be making a balsamic vinaigrette. The first thing you're going to need is a jar. We're going to mix all of the ingredients in here. It's going to be super simple. The first thing we're going to add is balsamic vinegar. We're going to add 2 tablespoons to our jar. 1 and 2. Next ingredient, we're going to add some Dijon mustard. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. 1 and 2. For a little sweetener to our dressing, we're going to use some maple syrup. You can use 1 to 2 tablespoons, depending on how sweet you want your dressing. Then we're going to add a pinch of salt and some olive oil. About a half a cup of olive oil. Then we're going to add a lid onto our jar and give it a good shake. And our simple dressing is ready to go. Now comes the fun part, assembling our bowl. First, we're going to take our kale, and we're going to add a little bit to our serving dish. And then we're going to add some broccoli to that. Now, before we add anything else, we're going to toss a little bit of dressing. You want your kale and broccoli to be really coated with the dressing. It'll help soften up the kale and broccoli a little bit. And then we're just going to combine that really well and get all the dressing worked into the kale and broccoli before we add our other ingredients. Now we're going to toss in some of our green onions. And then our apples. And our pomegranates. And then you can top it with some quinoa. right in the center, and then we're gonna add a little bit more dressing. And toss it all together. Doesn't it look delicious? So we're gonna toss all of it together and we have our beautiful salad bowl ready to go. Here we have our quinoa bowl. Doesn't it look delicious? So many superfoods in one bowl. Many of these ingredients can be grown right in your school garden. Now that you saw how simple and easy it was to create this dish, I challenge you to try it. This is a great way to enjoy an ancient superfood from the Andes that might just one day be cultivated and eaten on a space colony on Mars. I'm Lisa Cheplack, nutrition chef with Green Our Planet. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.